Hey guys, Drew from DriveTeam. As we close out June and we're moving towards July of 2024, we started to take a look at what are some of the biggest things that are causing crashes this time of the year. So we went back and looked at 2023, and as we're about a third of the way through the 100 deadliest days of the year, what are some things that we can look at and learn from so that maybe we can avoid these mistakes as we go into June of this year? And as we looked at those from last year and in 2022, they were very similar as well. There were some things that stuck out. Unfortunately, we had over 500,000 crashes across the country in 2023. And a lot of those were due to the following. Number one was distracted driving. Second was speeding, impaired driving, not wearing a seatbelt. Now that didn't cause the crash, but caused injury, caused fatalities because we're not wearing seatbelts behind the wheel. Next, we're looking at fatigue, and then lastly, roads. So how do we look at these, and how do we fix some of these problems? How do I make adjustments as a driver to ensure that I don't have this problem as we go down the roadway? And when you look at all these crashes, the majority of them are happening at intersections, major highways, and rural roads. So let's look at distracted driving here first. Obviously, distracted driving is a hot topic. It's discussed consistently since 2015. If we really dive into those numbers, we're definitely seeing a trend in crashes being related to distracted driving. And we always think of texting and driving or being on the phone and technology, which is one of the biggest factors. So how do I minimize those chances? When I first get behind the wheel, where do you put your phone? Where should I put it? Is it in a place that it's not going to be a distraction? Because we're human beings, and that thing lights up, it beeps, it makes noise, whatever the case may be, we're going to look at it. And then I have a second choice of, do I touch it? Do I pick it up? Do I respond? And all those factors. But if I can put it in a place where it's not going to be a distraction, and we can utilize the good tools of the technology to where I can put it on do not disturb or driving mode, and then those notifications don't come through, so I don't have the distraction at that point. So that's a big piece of just planning ahead with those things. But then there's other distractions as well with passengers and food and drinks, pets, and all kinds of other things that come into play that are distractions also. And we have to do our best to make sure that when we're behind the wheel, we're getting from A to B. And everything else during that time doesn't matter. We have to focus on the task at hand and the responsibilities that we have as drivers when we get behind the wheel. The second factor we're going to look at when we're looking at these crashes is speeding. And I get it. Going fast at times, there's thrill, there's enjoyment. The road is just not the place for that. Going to the racetrack, joining different car clubs, and you can do different events that allow you to take those things and enjoy that vehicle and what it's built and designed to do. And those are fun and those are exciting. And I'm totally for that. But our roads, the way they're designed, that 10 to 12 foot lane, there's not forgiveness. There's too many uncontrollable things. There's too many things that can happen as we're going down the roadway that the speed limits of those roads are specifically designed. Okay, so we've got to make sure that we're close to those speed limits, that we understand that we've got to be in control of our vehicle as we go down the roadway, and we don't hurt somebody. So just definitely think about that as you're going down the road. Let's do a better job of controlling our speed, especially on the highways. The speeds that we're traveling, the feet that you're covering, we can get into those physics, but the feet that are being covered in that short amount of time, your vision's not going to pick it up. To avoid a problem when it happens, I'm going too fast. So we have to do a better job of controlling our speed. And we look at impaired driving, and it's been the leading cause of motor vehicle crashes since the 70s, and percentage-wise, it's still stayed there from that standpoint when we look at all the motor vehicle crashes. But with impaired driving, number one is have a plan. who's going to drive if we're going to be at a party, or we're going to a cookout, or we're going to the bars. We designate somebody, or we have an option with all the services we have, the transportation services that we can utilize in many parts of the country to get from A to B without putting anybody in jeopardy behind the wheel is so much greater than it used to be. But if I'm there and we make those choices and we have been drinking, and I drove there, and you shouldn't drive home, don't do it. Stay and take care of each other as well. You see somebody that should not be driving, take their keys. They will thank you the next day. It's just not worth it from that standpoint. Seatbelts. Please, 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 I will beg you to put your seatbelt on. With today's vehicles, the way they're designed, the crumple zones, the safety systems, the airbags, everything that's built in, if something were to happen, my chances of walking away are so much higher than they ever were. You hear every once in a while, if I'd had my seatbelt on, I wouldn't have survived. I don't believe that at all. Please, please, please make sure that you're wearing that seatbelt, and we give ourselves a chance if something were to happen, that we can walk away and still be with our loved ones. Next is fatigue. Fatigue is tough, right? So the easy one is saying, okay, we've got to get rest. And I get that, and we do, and we need to be hydrated, and nutrition are all a part of those things of operating that vehicle at a high level. But we get bad nights of sleep, we get distracted, our mind's wandering, and we don't get good rest. We get behind the wheel, we have to understand our bodies. And what's the first sign of fatigue? And when we start yawning, when we start looking at these things, the head bob. When we're starting to do that, the eyes are closing, we're forgetting, signs that we passed, exits that we passed. We've got to get that vehicle pulled over. Pull over somewhere safe, maybe need to walk around, increase blood flow, get rehydrated, use the restroom, get yourself refocused. It may be up to a point where I've got to actually rest and physically close my eyes for a period of time so that I can keep driving. Because you fall asleep at the wheel, I can hurt myself, kill myself, hurt somebody else, and nobody wants that. And that's one that just keeps rising across the country, is fatigue driving. People have got a lot on their plates, they're trying to do a lot, and we put too much into the day and we don't get the rest that's needed. But when you're getting to that point, you have to pull over, because we've got to get ourselves to wherever we're going safely. The last is the roads, and there's construction always going on. There's always road upgrades. We're trying to improve things and make them better. So there's lots that's going on. So a big piece of that is planning and making sure that we plan ahead, so that maybe that road I can't take for the day, or I have different routes, or I have different options, but we take the time to plan our routes as we get down the roadway. A lot of this just has to do with proper planning. Okay, putting ourselves in good position every day so we get home safely. So keep practicing on that planning. Let's know ourselves, know our bodies from that standpoint, and let's make good decisions behind the wheel, and we hope to see you down the road. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.